Hey, what's up guys? So let's get started. What are we doing for Path of Exile, Lake of Kalandra 3.19? So starting right off, I always like to play things that have new builds, new skills. So we're going to be testing out specifically all of the lightning ones as the brand new Alchemist Mark. It has to do with basically a dot with either burning or caustic ground. So poison and fire are the main sources of the damage with this. We can mess around with it a little bit just kind of to equip it to see how it feels, but mainly what my plan is for Lake of Kalandra is to utilize the brand new lightning skills. So let's go over the new lightning skills real quick and I'll tell you guys what I actually plan to do, as well as give you guys some gameplay of kind of what to be expecting to see on the channel very soon, as I will be using this as my league starter. So we're going to be playing Elementalist. However, you can actually play the thing that I'm going to be building multiple different ways. You could actually be playing a Scion, or you can technically go Necromancer if you want to as well. So starting right off for a Galvanic Field, what the heck does this do? Basically, how this works is both of the brand new skills, there's technically 3 lightning skills, but this one is, I can go over this one real quick. All this does is makes it so you have something that applies a huge amount of shock on an enemy. It's a support gem that makes it so supported skills shock enemies as though dealing 500% more damage. So what this does, it'll give you like max shock effect on more so a boss, and then at like 65% increased shock, you're going to be able to deal a massive amount of damage with the other new things. But I don't really plan to use this. It's not that difficult to get high shock effectiveness through some of the items that I'll be actually going for. But pretty much Lightning Conduit and Galvanic Field are the brand new skills that we will be messing around with. So how Galvanic Field works, if you want to read it, feel free to pause, read it, whatever. All this really does is makes it so you apply a debuff, and then when you shock the enemy, it's going to create a sphere around the enemy and continuously deal damage to that enemy and enemies around it. I'm going to be using this primarily for bosses, and I think it's going to be a really fun thing for bosses. I'm not going to use this as a skill where I'm going to just constantly spam it, because you need something to inflict shock, therefore that's how it deals its damage. So you basically get another form of kind of, if you want to think of it kind of like a damage over time for lightning, you can kind of think about it in that sort of sense. But Lightning Conduit is the skill that everyone's talking about and the one that is really good. Now, I just have to mention really quickly, this is on the official Path of Exile website. It has the effective damage of 220%, which is insane. They've actually nerfed this. They actually tweeted this out and saying after further review, we're making some changes with it. What they're doing is they're nerfing the damage by 35% and increasing the shock value strength from 15 to 20% per 5% at gem level 20. So what this comes down to is it will actually deal more damage via the shock effectiveness versus just flat increased amount of damage. Now, it's a still decent amount of damage, is 190%, so it's still great. So what this skill does, because I mentioned this skill is a debuff, we apply the debuff, then we start dealing amount of damage to the enemy via shock based off of the effectiveness, and it starts doing some ticks. This one, how it works is this can't inflict shock. Both of these are going to require you to use something to actually shock enemies. That's why they have this, but we're going to forego this because I want to go fast. So Lightning Conduit is basically your big damage dealer. What you're going to be doing with this skill is you're going to have something do shock, and then you're going to have a massive damage multiplier based off of the shock value. Basically, they're the same. This one is more larger damage over time. This is just like a one button, deal massive amount of damage. We're going to see, which one is going to be the better one at the end of the day, because it comes down to how it feels and how fast this ticks. Now, this one has also been nerfed. The original text, when it first got revealed at some point, it said it can target each enemy only once after 0.5 seconds. Now it's 0.7. So keep in mind, things can be changed up and down, but regardless of what happens, I plan to use these new skills. That's my first thing that I want to do. Now, we can actually go for multiple different builds because of the new Lake of Kalandra effect, where you can get some of these like negative resistance modifiers. So some of you guys might know what I'm going to be doing, but basically we can play almost anything as long as we can do lightning damage. We can play minions, we can do bow, we can do sword, we can be caster, we can do basically everything, and it's going to be very, very viable. I was actually collecting gameplay recently of some of the stuff I was kind of messing around with. In all of the builds, I needed to take out some certain things to kind of match what Lake of Kalandra was going to have, specifically the mana reservation efficiency. I also do not have anointed the charisma, but this would be another great thing to grab. Literally, you could just get this and then you'd have that extra like 15% that you lost with the reservation efficiency that we are losing in the next upcoming patch. So I got some gameplay of a few different builds that I actually plan to use, and you guys can definitely run all of these basically with the exact same build as Elementalist, but you can play it a few different ways. So let me go and actually just play some gameplay here in the background. really quick. So if you want to level this up as Absolution, you can feel free to do that. It's very, very good. Absolution is an excellent skill. It's great for leveling, and it deals lightning damage. At the end of the day, we can technically convert all of the damage from minions to whatever element that we want. And in our case, lightning is going to be very easy. In fact, I really am considering running this as my build as far as clearing content, because watch how fast we are able to delete these bosses here. We're basically just eliminating them very, very, very fast, because Absolution just melts content, right? You can also play this as Arc as well. Here's some Arc gameplay. This is just a T16 map where we're just running through. This one is running Impulso, which you can run as well in the build. You will not need a 6-link if you guys really want to. You can run it. It's totally fine, obviously, if you want to run a 6-link, but there is some new uniques that I want to mess around with the new 100 unique changes, right? So that's another build we can play with this. This is a Flicker Strike build. If you want to, you can do Lightning Flicker. It's very, very good, especially with the brand new Lightning Mastery, which I will go ahead and show off. This build is going to be more for zoom, go super fast, but with the new Lightning Mastery over here, this is huge. So starting right off, one thing that I always like to rush is getting that lightning damage with non-crits is lucky. But the thing that actually makes it so much better is Lightning Mastery now has shocks you inflict spread to other enemies within a radius of 10. Normally you'd have to get the Eldritch currency and then you roll it on gloves, or you can do it other ways. But Lightning Mastery, this alone makes it so much more powerful. That way we can shock all the enemies and utilize those brand new skills. But that's the biggest thing here. I mean, if you guys want to see kind of a brief rundown of the tree, we will eventually towards the end game not want any lightning resistance, but in the very beginning we can path up here. We can grab this node just for faster casting. We can level this with Arc and Absolution, either one, or just run both. I mean, heck, why not, if you have the sockets for it. But just getting this early on is great. I'll zoom out just in case anyone wants to kind of get a brief kind of understanding of what we're going to be doing. This is kind of the idea. So it's going to be heavily based off of lightning. You can actually build this. You can play bow, you can play sword, you can do a lot of different things. I'll get into more niche things, because if we go sword, we're actually going to go ignite. We're still going to be doing lightning damage, but I won't reveal too much, because some of the stuff, I mean, it's of course subject to change, because sometimes they may patch one thing and that completely changes the build, but at least you guys get an idea of what my actual plan is. So on top of that, if you guys want to play golems, you can convert golem fizz to lightning. That's really easy with triad grips like the gloves. As far as golems go, it will need a more hefty investment into getting certain jewels to get more golems, but if you want to play golems, that is another option as well. I think golems are very fun, especially if you want to do physical. You can just stick with physical, because on the newer Ascendancy, you actually have the ability to have physical get some chaos damage with Unholy Might. Now, as far as Skelly Mages go, there is a change with the Alberon's Warpath. I mean, I still think Skelly Mages are really good, even though we'll kind of lose the way to play with the helmets, basically with a +3 to minions. You're getting +2 globally versus +3 on 1, which it doesn't really make a huge difference. I still think that it's viable to play. It's not super unplayable, but the thing with this is you may not want to go specifically lightning with this build, because obviously the Skelly Mages, they can go all over the place in terms of what they actually are. So going into kind of my plans for it more in depth over here, we're definitely going to be running Galvanic Field and Lightning Conduit. This we can just test out for a second, but I as far as I'm aware of, I'm not going to be running these as our main skills. We're only going to be using these for bosses, because these are going to be a combo based skill where we apply shock and then we deal something that actually does shock the enemy, if that makes any sense, to get massive extra damage. But looking at the numbers, Arc is still relatively strong, and even if we go off of these numbers, I still think that Absolution is still very good, even with some of the minion changes. Looking at some of the new uniques, there isn't anything that strikes my eye as, oh my gosh, I want to build a completely specific build around one unique. This one's kind of cool too, but with no life on a helmet, with the just evasion, I think that it's a little bit weak, but it does give you life recovery when you suppress spell damage, which we can invest points into. It used to be a lot easier to get spell suppression. Now it's more so on the tree, and we're going to be rolling Elementalist, so it's kind of in the opposite direction, but with some anointments, hey, maybe we can try that out as well. But there isn't, again, a unique, I mean, this is Hiri's Demise right here, just in a different form. It gives you some resistances, but you lose on the extra attack speed. Again, nothing too insane, this helm just has onslaught. Cool transmog, though. But nonetheless, again, there wasn't any crazy unique here. Now, there are some really cool changes to uniques that are actually a pretty big deal. So, Clay Shaper getting a massive buff. I already showed you guys some Golem gameplay. That's without the brand new Clay Shaper. The new Clay Shaper is literally 10 times the amount of damage that's added to the Golems. So this is going to be big. And if you want to, you could use Triad Grips and convert to Lightning, and then we're still in the same build of, like, we're playing Lightning. Lightning is going to be so good this league. There's a few things that I will talk about, like Singularity. This is massive. They're really supporting Lightning. There's one unique that I'll talk about later when the time comes for like my full build guide, but this is kind of our basic idea of what we want to do. So Singularity, massive buff over here. This is great for like basically mid to like late game, I would say. Like you can probably still even do red maps with this, but by that time I'm going to be doing something completely different. But massive amount of lightning damage is good, but at some point we'll get Annihilating Light, and that one will basically replace this. And then you also get guaranteed 100% increased damage, and you can dual wield these bad boys. Same thing with the Clay Shapers, you can dual wield these guys. Really great stuff indeed. I already mentioned, and I showed you guys gameplay of Scaly Mages. I may end up playing a little bit of Scaly Mages. The thing is, the Scaly Mages are getting nerfed by like 25% less damage. However, with the brand new Alberon's Warpath, our Skeleton Warriors are permanent minions and follow us. Now the thing with Skeleton, they just die like instantly. Like they're so like fragile that we'll still probably play, I think it was Blessed Renewal or like Rebirth. It makes it so like when you summon the skeletons, they don't like take damage for like 4 seconds, or minions created recently is what it should say. That does still have maybe some use in the cluster jewel department, but I think that this over here may change up the way it plays, and you can just kind of walk and clean up content, but we'll have to wait and see you know, how it kind of performs, because if the skeletons are still going to be super frail and weak, then we'll have to invest lots of points into maybe like minion survivability, which I don't really like to do. Sometimes there is some like hybrid nodes that give you damage in life, but for the most part I think that they're still going to be too fragile to keep them as permanent minions without needing to resummon them, because that's what this would do. So maybe we can try this, because that theoretically would increase your DPS on, you know, non-bosses, because on bosses you just summon your minions constantly, right? But like if you're just doing map cleanup, this could be a great option as well. In fact, all the gameplay that you guys did see is before all of these massive buffs. Technically there is a nerf in a sense to minions as well, because we lose the change. Like right now, this well, this is on an this is on my Necro right here. Now it still says +2 level of minion skill gems, because Lake of Calandra comes out tomorrow. However, on the POB, if you want to play Necromancer, and you're converting like to lightning, you don't want to get Unholy Might, because well, it's 30% of physical as extra chaos. So instead you can just drop that and get Bone Barrier. I always recommend, well, if I could put it in, I would still recommend for Necromancer builds, Mistress Sacrifice is like the only good thing. At that point though, if you do want to play like a pure like Necromancer Summoner build, you can actually go a Scion if you have it, and you can just go and get the Necromancer Ascendancy for this, granting us that bone. It's basically bone armor that we want to be affecting us. And then on top of that, we can also run Guardian, and that will give us Onslaught. So both of these are going to be great choices as well for any like summoner build. But pretty much I want to start off as Elementalist just because I like it a lot. If I want to, maybe we'll make a Scion as another character, but I'd probably end up just remaking some parts of the tree, and then we could play it that way. Also, in addition to that, what I plan to do as far as the Atlas passives. So I didn't put in all the points because sometimes people don't like to do the feared and all the other like things that you need to do regarding Maven. So we got some points out. My plan, at least for the Atlas passives, this is my plan. So first off, strong boxes. Like this is what I like to go for in terms of like the Atlas. I like to get strong boxes and shrines early on. So I think, where's it? Shrines. So shrines over here. So I like to get shrines early on and strong boxes. They're actually right next to each other, so you can path out for that. I also path out for Delirium. I block out all content besides Delirium, as well as that just Delirium, basically. Sometimes early on, though, I do admit Heist is still very rewarding, as well as the Expedition. However, I don't really like to read. I feel like reading slows like the pace of the gameplay down for me, so I like to play no reading, just zoom, 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 go, 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 and this kind of allows me to do it with just strong boxes and getting the shrines. And then I went into Delirium as well, just because it's kind of the same playstyle. Like, you don't really need to read too much. You just see, oh, did I roll currency? No? Okay, then if you want to skip it out, feel free to skip it out. But then I also really like getting, this is not bad either, just trying to get those Eldritch currencies, and then on top of that, getting the invitations. Those can sell for about 1x, or now as it's known as 1 divine. But basically, we can play almost anything with lightning damage, and that's my plans for 3.19 Lake of Calandra, is to basically start off with either Absolution. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do. I'll play both, but as far as like melee goes, like I said, you can play Flicker. It's going to be a little bit fast for some people, because I know sometimes when you're jumping around, some people don't like that gameplay because it hurts their eyes. It's too fast, but you can definitely play Arc. You can play Absolution, Arc, and then obviously using the new skills as well, specifically on bosses. And with the new rings and amulets, our plan is to basically get as much negative resistance as possible, and then we're going to be doing some really good stuff with the brand new gems. Hopefully we can like show off gameplay of like almost one-shotting the bosses. We'll see if Calandra also becomes like an endgame boss. But yeah, that's my plans for Lake of Calandra. You guys can let me know your thoughts, or you can tell me your thoughts on my build, or in terms of like your thoughts on what you want to play and some of maybe your ideas. Maybe you got an idea with a new unique, because I really like seeing gameplay of new uniques in Path of Exile. Just when there's a new league, I always think about like what new like unique can I make a build around. Soul Ascension are definitely great, but I have like multiple gloves that I need like to run, and that one might be a little bit difficult to fit in unless it's going to be super hard for the last boss. Because if I can like one-shot the boss, why bother building up these stacks of souls when you could just basically one-shot a boss, right? So we'll have to wait and see if Calandra becomes an endgame like boss. If she does, I'm really excited to give you guys gameplay of a new boss. If not, I'll probably play the game for about like a week-ish, and maybe then we'll swap to another build, or we'll see what happens. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. Let me know again what you plan to play for your league starter down below. If you want to see more content, we'll do a full walkthrough build guide, but that's my build in terms of like kind of what I want to do. So basically, we're doing lots and lots of massive lightning damage with a brand new league. But anyways, take care, and I'll see you guys on the next video, which will be tomorrow for PoE. When the league starts, we'll do a full beginner walkthrough guide, so if you want to see that, it'll be up very soon. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!